Hello, my name is Sherry Lovery. I'm with Crisis Management Institute. My entire professional life has been about working with children who are going through some kind of crisis or tragedy or trauma, or working with the adults who work with those children. And in having responded to Hurricane Katrina and 9/11 and Columbine and the shooting at Thurston and suicide clusters, we've really been able to see what parents can do that makes a difference, what things we can do that really help children get through these times. And sometimes that doesn't seem real obvious to parents. But the other part is that sometimes what does seem obvious really isn't that helpful. So let's take a look at some of the ways that we can be with our kids during the storm, if you're still in the storm, or in recovering from it now that many of you have seen the worst pass and the cleanup is where you're going. So first off, one of the things for us to think about is that children do about as well as the adults around them. So that means that they hear our conversations, they hear us voice our fears to one another, and that it's maybe not so helpful for children to learn or hear some of those adult concerns. They've watched us do our preparations. They might have been with us at the checkout stand when the man went ballistic because the store was out of batteries, or the woman was worried because the store was out of candles. Often they think that if we're not talking about what's going on to them, it's because they're supposed to be coping on their own. My mom and dad aren't talking to me about this because they think that I'm just okay, so I better just let them think that I think I'm okay. So what we might think about instead is that in reality we don't know how they're doing unless we ask. And then we ask, and we often make the biggest mistake of all. So you might ask your child, well, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And maybe your child then responds with, well, I'm really worried. And then, of course, sometimes what we do to that is we say, oh, honey, don't worry. And every time we say, oh, honey, don't worry, we're discounting their feelings. We're asking them to disregard their own internal integrity around mind-body connection of, I think based on how I feel. If we want our kids to behave in school and we want them to become internally disciplined, what we need to do is help them connect with how they feel. So what we might do instead of saying, oh, honey, don't worry, so we might respond by saying something like, well, I can imagine that you do feel that way. When you worry, what do you worry about the most? What do you think could happen? So for those of you, if the storm is still approaching, what your child might say is, that the whole house could blow away. What a perfect answer. Because then what you can say back to your child is, I can imagine that that's what you would think. This is a very big wind. But what will probably happen is that some tree limbs will come down and we might have a broken window, and you might see mommy and daddy running around like crazy trying to figure out what to do to keep the rain out. But, it's a broken window and that can be fixed. The good news is we did the precautions we could do, and we're here snug in the house, and we'll just stay together until it's safe to go out. Or if the hurricane has passed for you now, you might be saying, well, we made it through okay, but there are still some trees down and the roads aren't open yet. So we're just going to stay right here in the house where we're safe until we know that we can get out and get to where we want to go. So, you can keep saying to kids, the way we get through this is together. One of the things you might consider if you are still in the storm and you have television coverage is to not watch television too much, especially with the kids. What begins to happen for children is what we call psychological saturation. They watch the same thing over and over and over again, and it begins to wear down their sense of their own psychological strength, and they become increasingly wary, and they begin to worry, doubt their own ability to survive. And, the media is terming this the storm of the century, the worst ever, and the killer storm. And kids take that kind of language really literally. They don't have any history in which to place this. They don't have a context for having a really big storm and having a lot of people come to help and getting through that storm. We can picture that because we have that awareness over years that we face very challenging things, and then people come and help, and we put our lives back together, and some things may never be the same, but really we survive an awful lot of these kinds of things and then go on with our lives. So what we can realize is that kids are very influenced by movies and what's dramatized. And so you could ask a child, what have you seen on TV? Have you seen a show or something that has made you think about what might happen? And you can talk through how what was or wasn't real in that movie. For instance, back in the olden days, kids might say, the whole house will fly away because they saw that in The Wizard of Oz. And if they saw that in The Wizard of Oz, we could talk about, well, when the house blew away, that was in Dorothy's dream, and Dorothy's dream was inside a movie, and a movie is a lot of pretend, and so we can begin to talk about what's real and what's not. It's increasingly difficult for children to make those distinctions because they live in an increasingly virtual world. And remember, we'll come back to, again and again, the message to our children. The way we get through these things is we get through them together. Children look to us for cues. Like I said, they'll get through this about as well as the adults around them. So watch which concerns you voice openly, and even if you're nervous, use the most calm voice that you can. And use this time, if you're still stuck in your house, to do what you can that you can enjoy with your kids. Can you make hot chocolate? Can you roast marshmallows on a fireplace? Don't let your kids be in their rooms too much alone. It's totally all right for them if they're nervous at night to bring a sleeping bag in and sleep in the same room with you. You might get up in the morning and have discussions about dreams, even if you're through the worst of the storm, to ask kids what kinds of dreams they had the night before. Even if the storm has passed for you, this is still just a great time in the evenings to read with your younger kids and take time to just teach them a new board game or a new card game. Just spend time together with your children. Stay off of videos and stay off of news coverage as much as you can. You might ask your children to draw a picture about what the most scary part was. What was the one thing that was the most frightening? Then you could go ahead and look at what's the one thing we can do to prepare for that or take care of that. Or if the storm has passed, what's the thing that we did that you realize helped keep us safe? You could take a piece of paper with your child and draw a few circles on that page, and then the circle that's in the center of the page or closest to the center, they could put their own name, and those other circles then could be filled in with the names of other people that they know who love them and who are caring about how they're doing right now. You could draw one of those as well. Put your name in the center and put your network of social support. And what might be fun when you start doing that is to say, oh my goodness, we don't have enough circles on our page, let's add more. So that kids are really thinking about how many people there are who love and care about them. And some of those people in the circles would be adults in their school and even other friends from school who will be looking forward to school starting up again. Sometimes kids don't want to talk, and one of the things we can do when that happens is we can say to them, instead of what are you worried about, is we can ask them, what do you think other children are worried about? What do you think kids at school might be worried about? And that makes it a little safer for them because they don't have to claim those emotions as their own. And yet what we know is pretty much they're going to be telling you their own emotions because that's their frame of reference. You might ask students or children, what do you think other parents might be doing that help their children feel safe? Or what do you wish adults understood about what it's like to be a kid at times like this? It's pretty important to remember what not to do. When kids trust us with a feeling, remember, we're not going to say, honey, don't worry or don't feel that way, but instead we're going to say, well, I can imagine that's true. We're going to ask them what worries them most, and then we're going to problem solve about that without discounting their feelings. Some of the things to remember to do are to ask open-ended questions and let them tell us what's going on for them and not to interrupt and not to problem solve before they've gotten to the end of what they want to tell you. We can begin to help them build resiliency by helping them identify what are the things we did that helped the most and what are the things that you did to help yourself when you were worried. So remember, ask kids what worries them, don't discount their feelings, validate what they say, and then put it into context. Well, when we were young, and then you might talk about the first time you lived through a storm or the first time something frightening happened to you. Or when I was young, I got lost in the store and I thought I would never find my mom, and then some nice stranger came up and took me to the store manager, and they got on the public address system, and my mom heard them in the store calling for her. So you could talk about a time when something happened that was frightening for you the first time and how it turned out okay, and maybe it depended on other people helping you get that through that time. You know, there is a first for everything, and this is their first really big storm, and you're reinforcing that we'll get through this together. One of the things we'd encourage you to do is check out our website for more ideas. We'll keep uploading helpful information and activities that you can do with your children. We'll be uploading information for schools, and you're welcome to watch those videos as well. And certainly you can look at the activities we have uploaded for counselors in schools to use with children. We'd like for you to let us know what you need or what would help. And so drop us an email on our website. You're busy being there for your kids, and we're busy being here for you. So let us know what will help. Our website is www.cmionline.com. When you get to the website, there will be a red band across the top that says that's the link for information about the hurricane. So feel free to go to our website and look for more resources, and drop us a note on our website via email to let us know what we could do that would help you.